again now because it's timed down a little. Okay.
Ready? Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the regular council meeting of the Village of Walton Hills of Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 at 7:06 p.m. This meeting is being live streamed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are following House Bill 404 that allows public bodies to meet electronically through July of 2021. Okay, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to take a moment of silence for our deceased residents: Barbara Schreiber, Rose Lasobi, Marie Gaglione, James Kane, Jeffrey Byberry, and Janet Rudda. Thank you, everybody. Okay, roll call.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller. Here. Councilman Linville.
Present.
Councilwoman Allen.
Here.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Here.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Here.
Councilman Whedon.
Here. All council present, along with Angela Rivera, our fiscal officer, John Montello, our law officer. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Jennifer, before we do that, I'm going to have Paul Rich come up.
Okay.
I'd like to ask Mr. Paul Rich to come up, and he wants to say a few words about a special individual that we're honoring tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Duke, Fran, and guests for being here this evening. On behalf of the Walton Hills Zoning Board of Appeals, I would like to thank Duke Owens for his 30 years of service to the Walton Hills Zoning Board of Appeals as our ZBA chairman. What Duke did, I can't put into words, but he imprinted the framework for the appeals process for the Village of Walton Hills, and this is what we adhere to today. So he taught everybody a lot. He taught me a lot, and I'd just like to, recognize Duke. And on behalf of the ZBA, thank you for your 30 years of service, Duke. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd like us to introduce a proclamation honoring George Duke Owens for serving 30 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Whereas George Duke Owens, son of Washington and Gertrude Owens, was born in Cleveland on November 13, 1932. He has two younger sisters, Gertrude and Cynthia.
Whereas George the Duke and Fran were married on June of 1962 and have enjoyed 58 years of marriage. George and Frances were blessed with 3 daughters, Mary Beth, Carol Ann, and son Kenneth, who was raised in Walton Hills. George and Frances currently have 7 grandchildren who also have enjoyed Walton Hills.
Whereas George grew up in Cleveland and moved to Maple Heights when he and Frances were first married. In 1972, they moved into Walton Hills and have been residents of the village for 48 years.
Whereas George worked as a tool and die maker. He was the manager of Mercury Machine Company for 35 years. He also worked at Dunham Products, where he retired from at age 85. George served on the Board of Trustees for apprentices at Tri-C and Lakeland College.
Whereas George was very active in his community. For many years, he enjoyed being a lector at St. Mary's Church. George was president, vice president, and secretary in the men's club and lake club. George also held the position of publicity chairman for the 50 Plus Club, was a manager and coach of baseball, played tennis, and was an avid bowler. George proudly served as chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals, with his appointment to the board lasting 30 years.
Now therefore, I, Don Poligraph, Mayor of the Village of Walton Hills, Ohio, do hereby express my congratulations to George Duke Owens for serving on the Zoning Board of Appeals for 30 years. Thank you for everything you've done. If you want to say something, Duke, you're more than welcome.
Don't know what to say.
That's fine too. That's okay.
I would like to thank the mayor for the presentation. And it seems like the whole time I lived in Walton Hills, I was on the board of something.
That's probably true though, Duke.
And I don't know if it's fair to say, but the board that I was on the board for 2 or 3 years, and then I was president chairman for a good number of years. And I got a lot of cooperation from the council, from the mayor, and I would like to tell you that I got good cooperation from the police. Didn't have any trouble. I think if I was still a resident here, I would still be on the board.
Oh, I'm sure you would.
But I would just like to thank all of you because of the cooperation the board got from the whole administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Duke.
Duke, your son Ken is watching, and he said, "Congratulations, Dad." And your son-in-law Michael is watching, and he said he's proud of his father-in-law. Great man, but a better human.
Nice job, dude.
Sean McCormick says, "Thank you for all of your years of service to the Village of Walton Hills."
Thank you, everybody. Do you want us to get a picture with the family or anything before you go in council chambers or anything? It's up to you guys.
Yeah, why don't they get a picture of him up there?
You can come up front, wherever you think would be best, or you can do it back whatever you guys think.
I'm not that good with the camera.
Yes, one for the German.
But he is,
I'm gonna give you a call.
The white button. Is it looking at the dog? That's my dog. Oh, all right.
Sarah, you want me to do it?
Pass it to Brian. Yeah, take your mask off. They won't know you're-
Yeah, you're all
Slide them
right.
down over your, yeah.
Family can get away with that.
Ready? He loves golf, I know that. Cheese. Do one more, ready?
Yes, stay there. Angela wants to get one for us.
Here's another.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Stay there. Paul, would you like to communicate and anyone else? We'll just go on the end. You guys okay with us going on the end? We're gonna be in Paul.
Am I in the way?
It's up to council if they want to get in for any, it's up to you guys.
Well, I don't wanna mess up the picture.
Get in closer, Don.
Here, go ahead.
Take your masks off, you guys. You look like bandits. Take your masks off.
Ready?
Now smile.
Okay, dude.
Cheese. Cheese. One more. Say cheese. Cheese. There we go. Let's see that.
Hold on, Mayor, hold on.
And keep holding your breath.
It's less than 10 minutes though.
Ryan, after we know that I got a picture of your wedding ring, you're still wearing it.
So who's the oldest, Ken?
Great job, Duke.
You're more than welcome to stay for our meeting if you're bored. Don't answer me, Fran.
I am.
How's your wife?
She's good. She says hello.
I think we're gonna go. Thank you, everybody. That was
Fran said your number's still the same.
Yeah.
See ya.
Time's flying, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bye, we'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Take care, you guys.
Good.
Hey, can I go with you? Meeting adjourned.
We're leaving. Meeting adjourned.
Now you guys can go to work.
Yeah. Oh.
Thanks again, Duke.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Be careful going home, everybody.
You
Beat
take
the
care.
snow.
Yeah, you too, Duke. It was good to see you. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye, Franny. Take care.
Good night, Fran.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the regular council meeting minutes of March 16th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote on the motion.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Linville?
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen?
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky?
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel?
Yes.
Councilman Whedon?
Yes.
Minutes received and filed. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Item 7, any comments from any residents?
No comments.
Okay. At this time? Okay. I think just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, and I think everybody here, I mean, that's why we're all here, serving in this positions we are in, and no different than Paul Rich serving on the zoning board and all the volunteers. This community has such great residents, and there's a good example that just want to give back to their community all those years, and had to make very tough decisions that always weren't well liked by neighbors and friends and people that live in the village, but, you know, did what was right. So I just very commendable. So, okay, so I got the mayor's report. All right. This is the monthly mayor's court report. This is for March 2021. The total revenue for this month was $24,251.78. To year to date is $63,528.67. Year to date last year was $69,346.90. Okay, and this is our police report. The Walton Hills Police Department issued 159 citations in the month of March. The predominant violation was speeding, with 49 citations, followed by 16 written for driving on a closed roadway, and 14 citations for driving with a suspended license. There were 3 arrests for driving while under the influence of alcohol/drugs.
I'm going to interject really quick. Duke's sister was watching, Gertrude Wilson, and she said congrats to your brother, to her sister.
Well, how nice.
I know. So there was a lot of family.
That was fantastic. I'd seen that one before we started. That concludes my report. Any council comments at this time?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a little update on economic development, and there's just a few points here. Is that we are still awaiting a response from the EPA on the submissions for the city-owned Crick Road property. The village has received the preliminary findings from the OEPA on the condition that of the former Ford plant. Those findings indicate Ford has taken steps to manage the environmental conditions at the plant. However, we await further information on their continued efforts to remediate that site or what will be required to clean up the site for development. So, news media outlets have identified a partnership with Weston, Independence, and Skinnell companies, prospective purchaser of the Ford properties. Ford has indicated to Walton Hills that they are working on potential closing dates. However, no specific date has been provided. While incentives were discussed with the possible buyers, no closing date and no specific time, specific request is pending as far as the time. So, still no word on that. The documents have been finalized for the Smith & Obey expansion project. Smith & Obey has asked for a little more time before finalizing the terms of agreement. After the final rules and amount of the award to Walton Hills for the second round of CARES Act funding are established, the administration will discuss possible economic development programs. So that's really all I have, just little bullet points.
That was perfect.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Laura.
I have a report from the Recreation Department for April of 2021. This concerns a grant that they received in the amount of $5,000 from the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disabilities, and they're researching to purchase handicap equipment for the playground. The second is concerning the website. They removed some links from the website for the following programs since the deadline is over. The Parker Summer Camp, which they had 52 applicants and 15 counselors, and for the T-ball, baseball, and softball league, which they had 4 applicants, and they are talking with the surrounding communities, trying to get these 4 applicants onto the Valley View team. If you're interested in the Thanksgiving meal, the senior drive-through lunch on Thursday, April 29th, they're serving oven roast turkey, gravy, mashed potatoes, stuffing, green beans, rolling butter, and dessert. Anybody had dinner tonight? And registration and cancellations by Thursday, April the 22nd. Thank you.
Thanksgiving in April.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that.
Sounds
It's always-
delicious.
Anybody else have a report or
Mayor,
council?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a report from the street commissioner and building zoning from Mr. Kalman. The street commissioner report, They made necessary concrete repairs, surfaced and painted the concrete retaining wall on Dunham Road Hill, started the grass cutting season. Repairs were completed to the chipper truck, and they started the chipping season. The right-of-way, there was a right-of-way repair on Walton, Alexander, and Sagamore. The cold patch village streets as needed. They're continuing to do that, and they were maintaining the travel lane on Dunham during construction. They are starting to open T.G. Young Park and make necessary plumbing repairs. And they are completing a catch basin repair at the community center. And they continue to set up and take down for all events at the community center and the community room. The building and zoning report permits issued, 10 residential building permits, 3 commercial building permits, and 12 zoning permits. And that completes the report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Strickland.
Mayor Colgraf,
Yes,
members of council, I have a brief update from our police department. And this is just to let everyone know that Walton Hills is certified in all 4 groups of the Ohio Collaborative. The 4th group is, it came into being by an executive order number 13929 issued by President Trump. This collaborative and this order, this is to ensure that law enforcement agencies continue striving to provide transparent, safe, and accountable delivery of services to communities. Walton Hills Police Department is waiting for an in-person visit from a member of the Ohio Collaborative for recertification. It goes on to say officers in Walton Hills and completed 8 hours of de-escalation training, which includes some strategies for the best possible outcome course. Officers completed 8 hours of street cop training. And this course focused on the significance of candidly addressing officer wellness and career enhancement fulfillment with innovative techniques that serve the student regardless of rank. I also like to add that this training that our officers have completed and being involved in this collaborative puts our police department in some respects ahead of the pace for when, and I want to say when, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2021 is passed by the U.S. Senate and signed by our current president. This act has already been passed by the U.S. House of Representatives on March 3rd, 2021, and there are elements in this George Floyd Justice and Policing Act that will impact all local and state and federal police departments across the United States of America.
thank you, Mr. Weed. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add under council comments? Okay, any comments from anybody watching or any
No.
residents?
No.
Okay. Any comment from Mr. Paul, Rich, since you're the other one?
No, thank you.
We can move on to the legislation.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, legislation, item number A, ordinance 2021-5, the NOPEC grant. I know we had discussion on that. We talked about that in our COW meeting. This legislation accepts that grant, makes it formal. We also received the grant last year. What was the amount? I think it's
This year's amount is $6,280.
$6,280. So I'd like to ask for suspension on that. Mary, you'd like to introduce that?
Sure.
Okay, for suspension. Is everybody okay with that? Okay. Any questions on that? I know we went over it quite a bit in the meeting. Okay. We'll move on to item B, resolution 2021-9. That's the ODOT SALT program.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
don't we need to vote on the suspension that Mary?
I was just kind of going to go over them first.
Oh, okay,
To see if
okay.
we had any questions and then just go right into it.
Okay,
Or do you want to do them one by one?
oh,
Doesn't-
good,
Why don't we just go over 'em?
okay,
That way if we,
that's fine.
you know.
Sure.
Is everybody okay with that? That's basically giving the consortium the right to go out for collect bids. Okay? Who would like to introduce that for suspension?
I will, Mayor.
Who got it? Gloria or
Oh, I'm sorry. I
No,
didn't
go
know-
ahead, take it.
Brian? Item C, that's Resolution 2021-10. That's renewal of our medical insurance for our village employees.
Mayor Colgraf, if there are no questions on that legislation, I'd like to introduce that for suspension.
Okay? Everybody's okay with that? Right. Any questions on that? Here. And this is Jennifer White, is item D, Resolution 2021-11, the Walton Hills Lake Club Agreement. I know we talked about that. We did budget for that in our budget for this year. We budgeted a $20,000 amount to enter into an agreement with the Lake Club to provide swim services for the village. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, there was some minor adjustments the Lake Club wanted to make due to the attachment A, and we do have those. I did talk to the Lake Club president today, Sean McCormick. She is watching. If anybody has any questions, we can call her, and I can put her on speaker if you guys would like that. Otherwise, if you're fine with that, we just have to decide if you want to put it for first reading or suspension. Either way, me and Jennifer talked. Jennifer has what you guys have in front of you too, the changes that were made in that, it's item, let's see, I have in section 1 under services, item 2, A and B, you see those changes, what was added and what was changed. So we would just make an amendment to that. Whether we put it on first reading, we'll make the amendment for the reading, or whether we put it on suspension, we would make the amendment before that too. So it'd just be council's pleasure, which way you'd want to go with it. If we put it for first reading, we'd like to get it passed in May. May 18th would be our next council meeting unless we had a special council meeting for some other reason too, or whatever. But that'd be up to council.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
in the changes for July 4th, what exactly changed? Is that food games?
It doesn't say the festivities.
I'm sorry, what?
It doesn't say the festivities.
Games, food, and fun, extra charge for food, and then this one is
Just concessions will be available.
extra charge for concession food may apply. So July 4th would be open to all residents also? It's under that, it would be
Yes.
all Walton Hills.
The
So
only-
there's really,
The only, because we did talk about that, the only thing, if you look at that first paragraph, they might, it just depends, and I probably should get Sean on the phone, but what I got from her was, there might be a number that the lake can only have down there. So you can't just bring all the guests, it might just be, so they just don't want to say, as you see, it's going to depend on what the CDC and the state government says when July 4th comes on how they feel about gatherings, you know.
and Mr.
Can we
Mayor?
call Sean up here? We can, put her by the, there's a speakerphone, let's do that. Sean, we're gonna give you a call. Because she was kind of insistent, she wanted to be able to answer
Sure.
questions.
And Mr. Mayor?
229, hang
Oh,
on one second.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. 229.
Well, don't tell
Chance of this passing tonight, I mean, this lake club thing?
That's,
Because if you delay it, it's gonna be into May then, that's when they're open the season practically. So I'm sure they'd like to get some money.
that's up to council.
Well, yeah, of course.
Talking with Sean, they're okay if we went into May too. I told her that it could be May 18th if it went to second reading. You know, I can't speak for you guys, but, and they were okay with that. So that's gonna be up to you guys then to decide that. But they appreciate entering into the contract like all of us for the village site.
Okay, I've got Sean on speaker. Sean, can you hear us? Yes. Okay. Sorry, you're on my cell phone, so I don't know how loud it'll be.
Could you put it close to your microphone
Yeah, I can
maybe?
put my
And
mic,
that way
sorry.
the audio will
Okay.
pick it up for the residents.
Go ahead, let her know what questions you have.
Go ahead, Brian, you had a question.
It just says change here for July 4th. What exactly is the change?
The only thing that I wanted to clarify as an expense to those in attendance would be the concession. Everything else is included in that event.
Okay, very good. And I was going to make a comment, Mayor, in section 10 where it says no waiver. I was reading this before and it says no waiver as far as the changes that may or may not happen during the year because of COVID. It says no waiver or amendment or modification of any provision of this agreement shall be effective unless in writing and signed by both parties. I would assume, and I very rarely assume when I'm talking about my other members of council here, and you know what happens when you do that, but because of this clause in here, I think we would be very amenable. If something changes because of COVID, just, you know, let us know, hey, we can't do that because of this, and it's not going to be a big deal as far as this contract is concerned. That's how I feel about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think both parties, when we talk, feel that way. I'm sure everybody here feels that way. I know one of the important things that wasn't in there, the following lake shall be open for, we have that, except as noted, all of it are subject to change or based on health guidelines from the CDC.
Yeah.
It's just one of those caveats you have to have that little asterisk there, just because we don't know what tomorrow brings sometime.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, we don't know. Hopefully, it's gonna go the opposite way, like talking to Sean and council members here, that things are gonna continue to get better and maybe we'll have full service, you know, use the lake like what we're used to. But we know the trustees and the volunteers are all trying to do that. So yes, I agree, Brian, I'm sure everybody here agrees that it's always been a good partnership. We all try to work together. It's a community place. We're very fortunate to have it. Sean, what would be different? I know some people, as far as the 4th of July, there could be a chance that the amount of people that what members are allowed to bring down could be limited. Is that correct? It might not be the typical 4th of July we're used to.
I think based on what restrictions the governor sets forth, the restriction would be on occupancy. So if there is a limit on occupancy, then we would, and it may be an issue, it may not be an issue. I think people that are not comfortable in groups will not come down. So, we might require reservations ahead of time. We might need to know a little bit more information ahead of time. But occupancy, I would say, would be the number one thing that could be affected.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
When is the most recent incidents that there are being overcrowding down around the 4th? I'd like to know.
Well, we haven't. It's all due to the pandemic, Mr. Linville. Not about, it's only because the lake doesn't.
Pandemic, how long are we gonna be a prisoner to this pandemic, I wonder? So.
Well, the important thing, Denny, and this is something Sean shared with me as president of Lake Club and the trustees, they do have, they're regulated also by their insurance company. And their insurance company governs that they follow the state regulations, no different than us, so they're not exposed, they don't open themselves up for exposure. That's important to them too. So,
How much longer are we gonna be
Nobody knows.
a prisoner of this pandemic, though, or what have you?
We wish we
How
knew,
much longer?
Debbie.
Anybody got any idea?
Well, those entities, no different than our park program, will be determined by the state and by the CDC, and that's the guidance that we follow, and by the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. Those are the entities that we, as a municipality, have to follow.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Sean, it's Jennifer. I just wanted to know, how soon do you guys need these funds? Would you be okay that this was on first reading, or is the lake in need of funds sooner than that, than May 18th at our second meeting?
We would be okay waiting till the first reading to May 18th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions related to the contract or the amendment that would be made?
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
What Gloria had? Go ahead, Gloria.
I just had a question. It's not really on the contract, but is it still the same with guests? You were allowed 6 guests down at the lake?
Can you
John,
answer?
did you hear that?
Did you hear that?
No.
It was
I
to know if it's the same about the guest count. Could you still have 6 guests down at the lake?
The total group, be it members plus guests, cannot exceed 10 people. So if your membership is for 2 people, you could bring 8 guests. If your membership is for 6 people, you can bring 4 guests.
So it's the state guideline of 10 people.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, did you have a?
No, I have no other questions for Sean. I was just going to say, unless anybody else had any questions for her, I would be happy to introduce that for first reading with the amendment.
Before we move on, any questions for Sean McCormick, the president of the Lake Club? Okay. Sean, do you have any questions for us?
No, not at this time. But I just want to confirm that I will be more than happy to communicate anything, anything we have coming down the tubes with regards to the events. I mean, absolutely. You guys will be the first to know.
We appreciate that, and we always have gotten good communication from the lake, so we do appreciate that. Okay. We're good, Sean. Thank you.
We'll let you go. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
How does council feel? It's up to you whether you want to suspend it or put it on first reading.
First reading. I mean, Jennifer said she would.
Yeah, first reading.
Okay, that's fine. Then we'll, John, probably should introduce the amendment too?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, then, we're gonna go, Jennifer, you'll do that then, you'll do the Lake Club? Okay, then we're ready to start going through the legislation. Okay. Any questions before we move on to passing the legislation or putting it on first reading or voting, I should say, not passing but voting? You never know, right? Any questions from the residents?
No resident questions.
Okay, very good. We'll start with item A, ordinance 2021-5, the NOPEC grant.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce for suspension, ordinance 2021-5, an ordinance authorizing all actions necessary to apply and accept Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council, NOPEC, energized community grants in the village of Walton Hills, Ohio, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jennifer Allen.
Deb, Gloria.
Oh, Gloria. It's so hard with the math, too.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Churlowski.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Okay, suspension passed, 6-0.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of ordinance 2021-5.
Second.
Second by Raymond Lee.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Ordinance passed, 6-0. Thank you, everybody. Resolution 2021-9,
Mayor,
ODOT SALT program?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to introduce for suspension, resolution number 2021-9, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, Office of Contracts, Purchasing Services for participation in the Ohio Department of Transportation's contract for rock salt and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Second by Mr. Linville.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Suspension passed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask for adoption of resolution 2021-9 ODOT SALT program.
Second.
Second by Mr. Linville.
Councilwoman Brenner
Oh, yeah.
Miller.
Sorry,
Yes.
Mary.
Oops, sorry. You good? Councilwoman Brenner Miller. Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Resolution passed. Thank you, everybody. 6-0. Item C.
Mayor Colograph, members of council, I'm introducing for suspension, resolution number 2021-10, a resolution authorizing the mayor and the fiscal officer of the Village of Walton Hills to enter into a contract with Anthem for healthcare and prescriptive drug insurance coverage for all eligible village employees effective May 1, 2021 through April 30, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Mary got
Mary
that
might
one.
have got
Mary
you.
got that one. Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes. Mayor Colograph, members
Yes.
of council, I'm requesting adoption of resolution number 2021-10.
Second.
Second by Mr. Spitznagel.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller.
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Okay, resolution 2021-10 passed, 6-0. Item D.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to introduce for first reading resolution number 2021-11, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Walton Hills Club Company, an Ohio corporation doing business as Walton Hills Lake, for the provisions of recreation services for the benefit of the residents of the village through the remainder of the calendar year 2021, and declaring an emergency with the following amendments. Under Section 1, Item 2, Lake Events, A, the following lake programs shall be open and free of charge to all Walton Hills residents, except as noted, and all events are subject to change or cancellation based on health guidelines from the CDC and the state government. Opening day, Meet Your Neighbor Night, Open House with Entertainment, July 4th, extra charges for concession food may apply, and Labor Day. And item letter B, the following Walton Hills resident program events will be open free and charge to residents and participating non-residents. The Village Parker Picnic, the Village Sports Banquet, and the Village Senior Lunch as planned by the Rec Department.
Is there a second?
Second.
Everybody.
Who got
It's a test. I'm gonna give it to Gloria.
it? Gloria. Oh,
Right? Wasn't she one? Or who was
Yep.
the other one?
Oh,
It was
three.
Gloria and Mary. Oh, three? Okay, well, I'll give it to Gloria.
I have to do it in
I
harmony.
heard Gloria first, sorry.
okay, so we will move
You
item,
vote on the amendment or no? You, John?
no, because it was just first, we don't
So
vote,
we'll vote on that as well.
we
next
don't
time?
vote on it
Okay.
when it's first reading.
Okay.
It's fine.
You introduced it as amended, so that's good.
Okay, so then that second is for, okay.
So that item, the Walton Hills Resolution 2021-11, will go on, we'll put it on the COW meetings, depending on how many we have in May, and then we'll also have it on the agenda for the council. The only thing I have for old business is we did publish the article for the public hearing for the amendments being made to the ordinances. We published it in the Plain Dealer. We'll get you a copy of it. I did print a friendly copy off of cleveland.com before the meeting, and you need a couple magnifying glasses to see it, so I'm gonna have to.
I'll get you the bigger version.
That's it. But I just wanted to we'll give it to you. It does show when it was posted. We went with the Plain Dealer, because I know as council, we talked about, we're kind of in a tough spot here in Walton Hills. We don't have our Sun News. We don't really have that local paper anymore. So we figured the Plain Dealer, you spend a little more, but it does have the most coverage, and it also does put it on cleveland.com. So there's an electronic copy of it too out there. So I don't think we can go wrong with having our public, our posting that way, because it's really the most exposure. So that, just to let you know, that did take place. Because we need that 30 days before, we plan on having that meeting.
Mr. Mayor?
Meeting. Yes.
So that was published, so we will be able to vote on that on May 18th?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
If
perfect.
council's comfortable, then we'll have the public hearing before our council meeting, and then we could vote, we could have legislation if council's comfortable with that.
Well, I would ask council to consider that in suspension and an emergency, just so we can get it out on the books as quickly as possible.
Okay, so council feel good about that? John will start putting the legislation together. Anyway, we'll have a COW meeting to talk about it too. You'll be able to review it. So we'll have that ready for the next COW meeting then. Those amendments with the legislation. That's all I have.
I do apologize, I don't have your financials yet. I was waiting on a piece of information, and I just got that today. So that needed to complete my puzzle so I could get everything wrapped up. So I will send those as soon as they're all complete.
And then they'll have them before.
You'll have them probably, within the next few days. It was just that it was a critical piece of information. And that'll be your January, February, March, all your first quarter stuff.
Very good. Anybody have anything else for old or new business that they want to add? Okay, anything from any residents or anybody watching?
No.
Okay, well, I just want to thank everybody for tonight. I thought it went nice for Mr. Duke Owens. Paul, thank you for representing the zoning board. I know just for people, I know me and Paul talked earlier, even last year about it. We were hoping, Denny, just like you talked about the pandemic, that maybe things would have been more open at that time and we could have had cake and things like that. But as we know, we're still where we're at. So we didn't want to, we felt I didn't want to wait any longer. I felt we might have waited even too long, but you just don't know. We were in different times, so I'm glad it turned out well. And appreciate you coming out tonight too, Paul, representing the zoning board and all of council. I think it went really nice. Anything else anybody wants to add before we, John, you good?
I'm good.
Angela, council?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just would like to add one thing. I know how busy our building department is all the time, but I did have a family gathering, small one at our community center, and I'm very appreciative of how great they set everything up ahead of time for us. So I appreciate Rob and all the guys, and thank you for what you do, along with all the rest of our employees too.
Right. Yeah, they're doing a great job, and with all the things going on. And just as we know, Dunham Road is, just to kind of touch base on that, we posted a few updates on the website, and you guys will see that that's moving along, and it's moving along well. Tomorrow might be one of the first days, if it does snow, where we've had a little interruption, if that. They haven't missed many days. It's going well, so it's definitely, talking to Joe and Rob, it's on schedule with the contractor. They're gonna finish by their date, maybe even sooner, but they'll definitely meet the contracted date. Everything's going well, unless we end up with a month of bad weather in May, but it looks like it's going pretty well, and we're very happy for that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
I travel that almost every day, and I have seen cars coming at me. Not often, scary as all get out. Then they go onto the barreled off side. So I'm so glad they're giving these people tickets, because it's quite frightening seeing a car coming at you in the same direction, so. Not a lot, but scary, and they're doing a great job. It looks really good so far.
I will touch base real quick on one thing. Mr. Spitznagel, I know, and everybody received, I think everybody probably received it a while back. Dave Joyce, our congressman, sent out an email expressing a deadline for grants for some public infrastructure. We did apply for it. We met the deadline, and it would be for, and the reason, I do want to get you more information, we're putting something together, and I'll present it to the infrastructure committee, and then they can, but it's a good thing. Doesn't mean we're going to get it, but we did apply for it, and it is for a sidewalk on the east side of Northfield Road. From our borders, from one border down to the other. And that would be on the east side of the road, and that's where the bus stops are. And as you know, we've had some fatal accidents there over the years. We thought it was a great opportunity. Joe and Rob were looking at different things. I know Brian inquired about it, about, do we have anything out there for the deadline? And just thought that was a great project. The importance of the project, they're looking for some of the items that you need to meet. Does it affect other communities? And it definitely would affect other communities too, both Northfield and Bedford. It would be actually a very good thing. But that would be on the east side of Northfield Road. So the same side as Ford. And with that said, we're, it kind of opens up some different doors too. Development there too and stuff, but I'll get you more details. Just want to let you know, in case anybody's seen it, we didn't miss the deadline. We got a good application in there, and actually we feel pretty good that we stand the chance of the state maybe awarding it to us.
Good.
We feel it's a good project, yeah. And definitely would, as you know, we've had some. We needed to address that.
Sure.
And so it came at a good time.
Our street commissioner, Rob Kalman, had commented, Jennifer, on your comment and said, "You're welcome, proud to serve the residents."
Any other comments? Can I ask for a motion for adjournment?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Vote on the motion.
Councilwoman Brenner Miller,
Yes.
Councilman Linville.
Yes.
Councilwoman Allen.
Yes.
Councilwoman Terlasky.
Yes.
Councilman Spitznagel.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Meeting adjourned at 8:00. Thank you, everybody.
Nice to see you, Paul.
Nice seeing you, Paul.
Yeah, Paul.
We did the frame for you, John.
Are we off?